I'm really honored to be here to moderate tonight's conversation. Without further ado, let's invite our panel onto the stage. First, please welcome Nicolette Robinson. Michael Pitt. And writer, director, and producer of Tales of the Fight, please welcome Jackie. Hello again.
Can I just very quickly call out all of the amazing people who worked on the film?
Yes, please.
Because they're here with us. I believe Christopher Peterson, our costume designer, is here. How are you, Christopher? Are you here somewhere? Pete Zumba, our production designer, the best in the world. Our incredible producers, Colleen Cam. I love her. Josh Boyer, Jay Stefan, Edmonton DeCosgrove. I think Nick Nas and Jim McConkie might be here. Am I right? This is our camera guys. I'm sorry, I just have to say. This film happened because of such a massive, incredible group of people. Sheila Jaffe, our casting director. Oh my God. Eric Kelly. So thank you. So sorry, just jumping in with that.
Oh, thank you. It's an incredible movie, and it's an independent movie, so I completely understand how tough it must have been to lift it off the ground, and I'm very grateful to the amazing people who made it possible. So let's start with, this being in the tradition of, some of the great boxing movies that we love. They're all human stories, and this is a really deeply delicate human story. So tell me a little bit about the origins of the story. I think you saw a Kubrick short, correct me if I'm wrong, and that's where it began.
Yeah, I think in today's world, I saw Sean Baker talk about this recently, and he said there just aren't enough adult stories or human stories. And it's why I fell in love with cinema. It's why, I was, given such an early education of why film was what it was and why things meant something. In the films I fell in love with, this was sort of an homage to them. I got the great pleasure of working with Michael 10 years ago on Boardwalk, and it changed my life. It was, the first time I got any sort of notoriety as an actor, but the reason I always put it down to is the brotherhood that we found on screen together. And I used to watch him, and he would always push me as an actor, and he'd always say certain things and, go above and beyond what the lines were in. And in between takes, I'd see you punch a sandbag, and then he'd say he had to go to the boxing gym. So I had this boxer in the back of my mind, and when I saw the Kubrick short, which is a 20-minute short, it's about a boxer on the day of a prize fight, and as simple as that. I said, what a beautiful narrative for a feature, but what if you sort of raise the stakes and say, what if this day is his last day? And he's not fighting in the ring, he's fighting for everything. So day of the fight is the metaphor. It's the day that he's fighting for everything in his whole life. And I had Mike in my head from day one. I couldn't imagine the film without him. I wrote every word, hearing his voice in my head. And he led me to some very curious places. But it was beautiful, it was amazing. I sort of took it on, and I feel very blessed that it actually came to pass.
And Michael, since we now know that this part was basically written and created for you, what was it like for you to receive this script and to know that it was written for you?
Well, I didn't really believe it. And then something I did want to say about the film. When I watched the film, because Day of the Fight being that early Kubrick film, I see a lot of references, not just in the title. I see Raging Bull, I see On the Waterfront, I see America. I see a lot of references to great cinema. Not to sound too pretentious, but movies that make you feel something. And it's very difficult for me to even watch the film because I feel so much when I watch it. I'm very humbled and just blown away by what Jack has done. It's incroyable, as the French would say. I mean, it's...
There's an old quote by Picasso, which is, good artists borrow, great artists steal. And I don't mean that so literal as to say that, but even talking to Marty and talking to Ridley or talking to the Coens or talking to certain people that I've loved and respected and watched as a student of cinema, I think the best thing we can ever do is learn and watch and be a student and be excited and be moved. And I always talk about the sort of cynicism of life and cinema these days, that people want to escape, but escape's one thing, but to be moved and to actually have something change you, that's what I remember when I was a kid. I remember my dad played me on the waterfront when I was 9 years old, and I didn't have a good relationship with my dad, but I have certain moments that I remember with him. By the way, Ben McDermott is at the back there, my sister's husband, who did the score of this film. Ow! I can't believe I've forgotten his name. When I was just saying the names, because his score is just so beautiful, and it goes back to what I was saying, which is sometimes you watch something or you experience something and it moves you in such a way that you go, okay, I'm different now. And I remember I had that experience, and my dad said that On the Waterfront was one of my grandfather's 3 favorite films. And I don't think he meant it so literal as a film. I think it's what it does to you is when you're in the presence of wonderful performances or story, which can be simple or not, when you're moved to a place. It's, I'm a softie, I cry the whole time and I can't stop. I watch the end of this movie and it does it to me. And I don't think because I made the film, it does it to me. It's because I'm watching something that is so beyond me, and I'm watching something that is so real and so perfect that Nicolette and Mike and Ron and Joe were a part of. And all these incredible people that worked together to put something because they loved it. And it's probably the greatest moment of one's life to sit up here and have Martin Scorsese sort of, in essence, say, hey man, he kind of liked the movie, which is cool, so.
And he knows a thing or two about a black and white boxing movie. So, Michael, so to Jack's point, being all of us being a student of cinema, I'm wondering if there are other boxing movies you looked at, and how did you train for this part, essentially?
Boxing movies. Well, there's a Fat City is a special film. I love boxing movies. I love all of them actually. And something I love about this film, when you watch this film, you watch this character. If you walk into a boxing film, club, I mean, there's hundreds of these stories. It's everyone's story. It's every boxer that and also just the fight. Life is a fight, and I think everyone responds to that. Everyone relates to that. But Wait, what was the question?
Also, how did you train?
How did I train? Well, we had a lot of false starts. So we were going, and then we weren't going, and then we were going. And I didn't have a lot of scratch on me, so I would go to every boxing gym that I could. I would try and do what I could with no money. Sometimes
He did that fight in a day and a half. The entire boxing scene took a day and a half. And if you know boxing films, that's when I told Marty that, he pretty much fell off his chair because it's Mike pretty much fought for a day and a half. He got in the ring, they punched each other, they did it. We saved it to the end of the film just in case, but it was special.
We talked about keeping it at the end of the film just in case I got, just so that they wouldn't worry about me getting hurt. And it's a smaller film, and I was thinking about, well, we need to make contact. And so me and the fighter, his name is Cameron, was playing my opponent. We were making actual contact, and we could have never done that in a bigger budget. It would have never happened. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to like.
I know, we're not really meant to say this, but Mike,
I do remember that we were doing we were shooting the fight, and I had to ask for a break, and I was so nervous because this was a long journey for me, and I got tired, and it was like, oh, my conditioning, I got tired. I asked you for I said I need 5
hours for a smoke break.
So I went out, and I took my 5 minutes, and I was really nervous because I was way too tired. And then someone told me what time it was, and we had been doing it for 8 hours.
8 solid hours.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, pretty good. I got this. Is anyone going to ask a question out here?
No, it's just...
No, it's just us. Okay. All right.
And Nicolette, I would love to bring you in. Jess and Jess's relationship to Mikey is among the backbones of the story. I'm wondering how you tapped into that dynamic and your character.
Well, I guess when I first read the script and even just made myself take a long time before we started filming, I knew Michael was attached, and I studied your work a little bit. I looked you up on YouTube. I just did the quick, get some clips of some of the greats, and I was enamored by the way that Michael uses his eyes. I feel like all of it is just in your eyes, and so that was, I knew it was really important for us to feel the history of the characters, because that was what moved me so deeply when I read the script. I just thought in each scene that Jack had written, you're in the present moment with them, but there's just years and years of pain and passion and love and so much history. Even just thinking about that, I started to well up with tears, but I loved their love, and you root for them even though it's so painful that you know that they just can't be together. And so, I started by just, trying to lock in to his eyes.
It is a love story.
Yeah.
All films are a love story. I always say that. I said it's not a boxing film, it's about a boxer. It's a character study, it's a human story, it's a study of the human condition, what we all feel. You don't need a complex story to tell something complex, because we are so much that. I thought the two of these guys, you got them on set, it's amazing. My grandmother said 90% is casting. And there's no true words that have been spoken, because when you're directing the film, you're thinking about so many things, especially producing, directing, all the rest of it. What you want to do is you want to hand it off. You want to say, okay, this is yours now. Go do your thing. Like, we've created this, but like, go build, relate, take it, run with it. I'd never be the kind of director who would be precious over the dialogue, or if somebody wanted to change something or say something or felt the need to improvise, I welcome it in such a wonderful sort of collaborative way, because I do look at these guys a little bit like thoroughbreds. And it's like you train, and you're at the starting gate, and suddenly you open the gates. Like, I'm not going to come in the middle of a scene and say, stop, that's not what was written. I loved the sort of amorphic attitude that one takes of these things grow, and you watch these relationships happen. And it's such a beautiful experience. It was, we didn't have much time. We had 20 days and to make this movie, and it was quick. We started with Josh, am I right? 24 days, and every day they try to take a day away from us. And we were like, how do we do this? Let's cut the cars, and let's get the extras on one side of the box ring, and we'll pull them over to the other, and we'll redress them. And we're like finding so many tricks. I think one of the great things was Ridley Scott. I had the pleasure and honor of working with just before the film. And he said something so important and so brilliant, which was, get another camera. I mean, everybody knows Ridley has like 20 cameras. But he's like, if you have two, get a third. It might seem expensive initially, but you pull that third camera and you're shaving a day. That's it. And you're also getting, everybody's on camera at the right time. It's not so much of this, hey, it's on you. We're like doing this collaboratively together, where everybody feels like they're part of it, and you don't think it's so staged. And one of the wonderful things was the honesty that I thought all these amazing people brought, not only to their characters, but to the costume, to the production design, to New York, to Brooklyn, to the production. It was, you're only as good as the people you work alongside. And I felt like I worked alongside the absolute greats, and they helped me make this film what it is. And I really just feel so grateful for all of it.
You got Charlie from Boardwalk.
Yeah, Charlie, and we got a lot from Boardwalk.
So
Jim's here, man. Jim McConkie, one of the great.
So one of the great. Because you mentioned I would hit the sandbag. Well, the Grips would bring me the sandbag.
Yeah, Charlie was the one.
They were always. I was always taking their sandbags, and it was so I could.
They made him his own sandbag.
Train, and when I was working, they made a sandbag with my name on it. They had it embroidered in the handle of the sandbag, and it was my sandbag. And then I left the show, and I wasn't able to pick it up. And how long ago was that? 10
years, man.
10 years. Do you know that
he brought the sandbag?
They brought me my sandbag on the first day.
First day of production.
And it was.
And that is what I remembered. Is in between takes.
Meant a lot.
But Mike punching the shit out of these sandbags, and then saying he was going to go to the gym and do boxing, and it's so funny how something just stays in the back of your mind. And the minute this idea sort of was, took seed, there was no one, and everything came from that. It's certain things you feel so blessed and grateful for. And I mean, like I said, I'm a big softie. I love things that make me feel, and these guys made me feel on a daily basis shit that I haven't felt for years. So thank you for that.
And speaking of all the elements that make us feel something in this movie, you brought up music, but I also want to bring up some of the songs that are featured in the film. One of them, Nicolette, is written by you and your husband, Leslie Odom Jr., and also features Becky. So tell us a little bit about composing that, recording that for this film specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Jack came to us and proposed. He wanted us to write this song for the film because we had worked on "Have You Ever Seen the Rain," which you hear in the film, and we recorded it a lot of times in the studio to really try and figure out the best version that really fit the moment. And we really wanted to see. I mean, Jack had this vision from the beginning, and so we really wanted to discover that. And we were all in the studio together, and Jack just had the idea for us to write another song for the film, which you'll hear eventually when you can sit through the credits longer. But yeah, I had such a moving experience on this whole project. It changed my life, and I started by just writing poetry. I brought in my collaborators, Leslie Odom Jr. and Katie Bullock, my best friend as well. And Jack just gave us the chance to write this, and then we got the chance to work with Joe Pesci. He came into the studio and he had his guitar and told us stories for about 90 minutes, and then would sing on his guitar throughout it. And then finally he got into the studio and he went in for 10 minutes. We didn't know how much of the song he was going to record. We got in for 10 minutes. He came out. He said, "Well, I think you got everything you need." So
It was about 3 seconds.
we got him for the end of the song, but he's such an incredible human being. So even just getting him for that moment, but yeah.
Yeah, it is a beautiful song. It really doesn't look like a first film. It looks like a film made by a veteran director, and a lot of it goes to your visual language, your choices of black and white cinematography, and the splashes of color you use in the flashbacks. So tell us a little bit about those choices. Why was black and white important, and why was introducing color in flashbacks important?
It's interesting because initially I conceived it as black and white because I felt that Mikey was living in black and white. He was living a black and white life, and he was trying to paint color to his memories. That's why those splashes of colors exist there, which is all very well and good. And black and white not only is what I was brought up watching and loving, but there's something so timeless and raw and beautiful about it. But when you're making a low budget independent film and you're living in 2024, 25, 20, well at the time 2022, 23, New York looks very different than it did back in '89 or it did back in 1950 or 1960. So we black and white's amazingly forgiving. So rather than painting out or using visual effects and trying to change what New York looked like, we were
Shot in Jersey.
Yeah, shot in Jersey, and we black and white was amazing. It served as an amazing palette, and saved us probably millions of dollars at the end of it.
And we discussed them a little bit, but you have an incredible ensemble of actors, obviously, in addition to Michael and Nicolette. Basically, everyone I would want to see in this movie is in this movie. Joe Pesci, Steve Buscemi, and John Magaro, and a lot of New York actors that you cast. So tell me a little bit about bringing that ensemble together, and then maybe Michael and Nicolette, you can talk about working as part of that ensemble.
I can say one thing is that for the longest time when I was reading the script, there's the role of the priest. And so I was saying, Jack, you gotta play the priest. And he was like, well, I got this guy, I got this guy, I got that guy. I was like, it's not, you have to play the priest. If you want me to do the movie, you have to play the priest. He said, finally, I'm not gonna play the priest, but I promise you, you won't be upset. And I think maybe second to Jack playing the priest, John Magaro was
such a wonderful actor.
the actor was just a breath of fresh air. Like I can't say.
We had a very short time of each, you know, like John was on for a day, Joe was on for a day, Steve was on for a day, so we had a short time. The entire film hinged on Joe being in the movie, so we got financing based on Joe Pesci being in the film, and you know, landing Joe Pesci is like landing the white whale. It's like, you know, Moby Dick here. And I'd been through some stuff. If you don't know, when Mikey puts the record on in the home with his father, that's actually Joe's song. So that's Joe singing. And he's a world-class singer. He had this cadence of Jimmy Scott. I went to a friend's house who'd been recording, and he gave me some earphones, and he said, listen to this. And he goes, if you tell me who's singing, I'll give you $100. And I listened, 10 minutes in, I'm like, who the fuck is it? And he goes, he's an Oscar-winning actor. And I listened up for 10 minutes, I'm like, who is this? He goes, it's Joe Pesci. And I was floored. And
he's a great musician.
I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful singer. He went under the sort of pseudonym Joe Dogs for many years, so no one really knows this. But
He's also done a rap record that I really
maybe not as great as the jazz.
Pretty damn good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Well worth
It's
listening.
gonna surprise you.
But my grandmother, when she was suffering from early onset dementia, she would listen to music, and I always remember my grandmother. She listened to music and she'd know the words to the songs. And we talk about that. I remember me and my mum talking about it, and it was amazing. Like, you could see how it brought someone back in the room. And I had in the back of my head hearing Joe sing, and when it came down to Mikey's father, who was suffering from dementia, you had to build up such a backstory. You had to be such an important actor. You needed to be able to imagine who they were, like their personality, their screen presence preceded them, and nobody has that more than Joe Pesci. So I thought, well, what about if you don't hear him speak, but you hear himself sing, and that's what pulls it back in the room, and that's their sort of moment together. And I was lucky enough that I was working on The Irishman, and I spoke to Jay Stefan, one of our wonderful producers, and I said, listen, this is the idea for the movie, but could you get this to Joe? And he was like, let's do it, kid. And he got it to Joe, sure enough, and he got Joe in the movie, and Joe was the one who pitched the idea that when I was writing the film, I wrote the last scene with the taxi driver. It's not necessarily meant to have happened. As you sort of see Mikey gets out of the taxi, looks back, and the taxi's not there. Maybe it's the angel that took him home. Maybe it didn't ever happen. Maybe he was already dead. It was meant to be sort of in that sort of light, but Joe said, I should be the taxi driver. And I was like, hang on a second, you pitching me that you're gonna do 2 roles in my movie? We're good, okay, that's fine. So I took him up on the offer, and he went, well, fuck you, I don't want to work anymore, but I'll do your movie. That was his last words before he left the room. Yeah, we were lucky enough. When Joe turned up on set, that was probably the greatest moment of our lives.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And maybe as a last question, Nicolette and Michael, Jack is also an actor. This is his first feature as a director. So I'm wondering if it's different for you to work with a director who also speaks the language of actors because he himself is an actor.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but Jack, I mean, I've been a fan of Jack's for a very long time. I mean, you're one of those actors as well where you don't even realize it's you see, because he's so transformative. So first of all, you just trust him so deeply as a director. But Jack's so feeling and so empathetic and just took such care of us and was always advocating for us. And he's, if we were on this indie film, which you don't have time to do these scenes. And so even if we get to the end of a scene and we were packing up to go move on to another setup, and one of us were like, can you please just do it one more time? Jack would stop the whole set and say, okay, we gotta get one more. Sorry, everybody, we gotta get one more. And that's, I mean, we didn't abuse that power, but it was a blessing to have somebody advocate for you in that way. Michael?
Yeah, I mean, you asked this in the previous talk, and yeah, I was thinking about it because then Jack had mentioned that he had watched a lot of directors, working as an actor, that he had watched a lot of directors kind of miss their moment with a performance of another actor, and I've had that experience too. I've seen great performance actors who I've worked with, great performances destroyed before they had ever happened, and so sometimes it's not what you say, it's what you don't say, and so Jack knows that. And I think, you know, I've been working a while, but I think I haven't been able to just be an actor in a very long time. Like, you're writing for them, you're producing for them, you're kind of, you know, but Jack was, don't do any of that. I want you to be Mikey. That's all I want you to do. And he was going through a lot, so it was, you know, you want to help. But I knew what he wanted. I knew the performance that he wanted, and it was a dream to just be an actor, to just be able to focus on that character. It was a dream.
It goes both ways. I got to tell one quick story before we go. I remember it was like late on, just before Christmas, and some money hadn't come in, and it was something else, and I had blisters all over my tongue. And we were doing like a major scene that Mike was having some form of problem with, and he wanted to come talk to me, and he just saw me with my tongue in a warm glass of salt. And I was speaking, and I was like, oh, Tom, Mike, I'll put it in my account. And Mike goes, I'm good. I'm not going to ask him anything. I think he's going for enough. And that was pretty much everything on the movie. We were like, I was so desperate to just keep producing. You know, I was lucky enough to work with some wonderful producers, my partners, who I love and will be friends for the rest of my life. But independent cinema is so hard. It's so fucking hard. And it's just so important to keep that away from the idea of the performance, because the purity and the honesty of what these guys did was everything, and the film wouldn't be anything without what you guys gave. I just feel so lucky, and just thank you for everybody turning up and having Martin Scorsese introduce us.
Thank you so much for watching.
Might as well just shoot now. So.